What's going on, everyone? In today's episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by Nick Licameli, who you might recognize from his ongoing appearances on the 3DMJ podcast. Nick is a doctor of physiotherapy with an extensive background not only in working with athletes, but specifically with natural bodybuilders, both within his own practice and with Team 3DMJ as their injury reduction and management specialist. Not only does Nick help natural bodybuilders recover and rehabilitate after experiencing pain and injuries, but he is an active pro natural bodybuilder himself, having recently finished a competition season just in 2024. In our conversation, Nick shares tons of amazing insight, both around the physiotherapy work he does with natural bodybuilders and from the experience that he's had as a pro natural bodybuilder himself. You guys are in for an incredible episode. So without further ado, let's dive in. With whatever detail you're open to sharing, can you share a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. Um, and I know you've been a 3DMJ follower for a while, and as am I. Yeah, it's awesome that our community and our people kind of all come together and speak the same language, and it's really nice to see that. So thank you for having me. And yeah, so I guess my background, I'm a doctor of physical therapy here in the United States, and I'm also a pro natural bodybuilder. Currently in my off season, so I competed last in 2024, and I stepped off the Mr. America stage in October. And my third daughter was born 2 weeks after that. So I realized looking into that year that the baby was going to be around that time. And so I got Jeff in my corner again and said, Jeff, I think this is another year we can go with this with a prep. And Jeff, I think, wants me to have a bit more of an off season. That was the original plan, but then I told him, we're trying to have a baby. If we're successful, he or she is going to be born right around like the fall. So I think if I'm going to compete, why not do it this year, and then I'll have a good off season with the newborn and of course the two other kids. So that's what happened. So I competed in 24, and so now I'm about almost a year into my off season, and so that's going well. And my so physical therapy. I graduated 10 years ago, which is crazy to think. And my journey in physical therapy is almost in parallel to my journey in bodybuilding. Um, in physical therapy, while we're in school, we are taught certain things that are a bit outdated, but it's not the schools or the program's fault, because they have to make us all generalists. They have to just give us all the information. We have to pass our big exam to get our license, and then it's on us to further our education and kind of get more specific into the area that we want to get into. So not that the school anything wrong with the PT schools, um, but you kind of come out of physical therapy school almost like the our education in bodybuilding when I was younger, with magazines and like the biggest guy in the gym and a lot of kind of like bro science, and you kind of like follow that like as if it's written in stone. And the post workout window, like we got to have that shake like right after like grandma's funeral. No, sorry, like gotta wait, like gotta have my protein shake. That was a weird example. Hope
Yeah.
my grandparents are all
I liked it.
have all passed on now. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so we have these like ideas, and we try to learn, and we have that drive and dedication to knowledge and educating ourselves. But sometimes we're just kind of like pointed in the wrong direction, and then it takes like a 3DMJ, for example, to like pick us up and like point us in the right direction, and then we can still use that drive and thirst for knowledge, but just it with better sources and a bit more open-mindedness. And so in physical therapy, that was clinical athlete. So if anyone doesn't know clinical athlete, I would highly suggest looking them up. That was kind of like the 3DMJ of physical therapy for me. I kind of dove into their work, and you meet people within the community, and it just kind of um, moves you away from a bit more manual therapy based, tissue specific diagnoses, those kind of things, and more like a general, like holistic approach to pain science, biopsychosocial model of pain, the multifactorial nature of pain, taking the whole person into account and not just their knee or their shoulder. So that was kind of this renaissance that I was going through at the time in physical therapy. And just at the same time, I was kind of starting to follow 3DMJ. So I was kind of getting all these worlds tipped on their heads at the same time. Um, and if nothing else, going through that process taught me to never be too sure of myself. Always question. And there's a saying: you always are 100% sure of something right up until the moment that you're proven wrong. So it just I always remember that feeling of thinking 100% one way and then being shown evidence to the contrary. And it's important to be able to change our mind. So that's kind of my journey in physical therapy and bodybuilding, and yeah, it's been great. I joined Team 3DMJ 2018, so I was a longtime follower of them, and I forget how we originally connected, but Andrea of 3DMJ asked me to if I would be interested in guest blogging and writing some articles for their website, and that was like a dream come true. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, please, like put me to work. Like I want to be anything. I'll sweep the virtual floors of 3DMJ. Like yes, please. And so I wrote for them for a bit, and then after about a year, I think it was around Christmas Eve. Uh, Eric and Andrea emailed me and asked if I'd be interested in joining the team as their kind of rehab specialist. And so since 2018, I've been working with 3DMJ, like we were talking about before off air podcasts, working with their athletes, and yeah, just supporting them in any way that I can. And I also work with athletes online outside of 3DMJ. And that was all happening at the same time that this kind of renaissance in my physical therapy practice was happening, which is kind of perfect timing because you can't really treat someone virtually if you're in that mindset of I need to get my hands on them, I need to crack this, I need to stretch this. So you have no choice working with someone virtually to take the whole person into account, see how we can modify exercises, modify lifestyle factors, sleep, stress, all those kind of things. So all of that kind of happened at the same time in my life. So yes, that's a long-winded answer to how I kind of got where I am.
Well, I'm curious. I know that for myself, I've already been quite familiar with you, having watched many of the 3DMJ podcasts that you've participated in. I've learned about like managing my own aches and pains that I've experienced as a someone that's consistently been lifting for a long time. I am curious about more of the kind of work that you do with 3DMJ, and you touched on the online work that you do. So what does that look like from the online space? I know that I've worked with a physiotherapist only once before. It was when I after I broke a finger. So I did like a little bit of work with him years ago. But I'm curious, what does it look like when you work with athletes, like say with 3DMJ? Is it the kind of thing where you consult with them and then based off of whatever they're experiencing, it's like you kind of program in some kind of like a rehabilitative type of a program? Or what does that usually look like from working with like online athletes?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I work. So I have an actual office, which I'm in right now. So I am an owner and partner in an outpatient physical therapy office, and then I also have the online business as well. So online, basically, how it happens if it's a 3D MJ athlete, the coach will reach out to me and say, Nick, John here has been dealing with shoulder pain for the past 3 months. We've tried some workarounds. We haven't really been too successful. Seems to be getting worse. Would love for you to take a look at him and consult with him. And then that we would all connect on an email. And then we would find a day and time that works best. And then we kind of dive right into it. And basically, I always start by just asking kind of how it all started. Was there an injury? Did it kind of gradually come on? And then, yeah, really just find out, first rule out red flags. And red flags are things like constant pain, pain that you can't reproduce or make better. Like sometimes you'll be able to, like, every time I do this, it hurts, or every time I do this, it feels great. But if we can't find any of those kind of things, that's not a great sign. Any kind of numbness or tingling, like shooting down anywhere, that's not a great sign. Any signs of like an infection or any kind of injury, impact where there could be a fracture, those kind of things, you want to make sure that we've ruled those things out. I've never come into contact with them, knock on wood, just yet. But if any of those are present, I would probably recommend they see someone in person before we work together. But once we've ruled those out, then we kind of just see how it started. I want to get to know the person, what their goals are. Are we stepping on stage in 4 months? Are we in an off season? Are we just a recreational lifter? Do we have a trip to Aruba in 6 months and we want to just lose some weight? Are we a power lifter? So I want to just kind of get the scope of who they are, what they like to do in their free time. Do they have a dog? How big is the dog? Do they walk the dog? Do they run with the dog? Does the dog pull when they walk them? Like real specific, and we just get to know each other a bit, and then we dive into the training. So usually I'll have them tell me their split days per week, body part, and sets and reps and RPE. We dive into all that, and then we try to figure out what is provoking this pain and what can we do to stop kind of poking that bear, so to speak. And whenever someone either walks into my office or jumps on a call, I'm always trying to figure out, are we going to build this up or calm it down, or somewhere in the middle there. If someone is really in a lot of pain, then we're probably going to work to calm it down a bit more than we are build it up at that time. And all the calm it down things are all the things that we know and love. Um, Stretching, massage, ice, heat, electric stim, cupping, foam rolling, all those kind of things are lumped into let's calm this thing down, which are more of short term, as well as things like exercise modification, changing the volume of training, decreasing the proximity to failure. All those things are going to help in that calm it down kind of side of things. Once we can calm it down, or as we're calming it down, then we can kind of slowly work to build it up. And that process is through what we call graded exposure. So that's just a gradual kind of, we break down the movement pattern that they want to get back to doing, say a bench press. And we just kind of take baby steps down from their goal movement. If it's benching 225 with full range of motion, then maybe we start with 200 pounds and we just try that. If that doesn't work, we reduce it a bit more. And if that doesn't work, then maybe we try reducing range of motion. If that doesn't work, maybe we try something else. So we're changing the exercise completely, a bit of an incline perhaps. So those are all ways of kind of breaking down that goal movement. And then once we get to a point where we're doing some version of that without pain, then that's where we kind of gradually start working back into that flat full range of motion bench press at 225. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the process. Usually we look to, are we going to calm this thing down? Are we going to build it up?
That makes sense. Are you so to summarize, it kind of starts with you identify the severity of the pain, kind of getting an idea of what's causing it, what type of pain it is. You get an understanding of each athlete's goals, and then work on creating some kind of a plan working with them to gain strength back whilst allowing for the rehabilitation and the recovery of whatever is hurting, more or less. Is that kind of ballpark? In um, an oversimplification, but is that kind of about on track?
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And usually it's not only calm things down and no building up, and not only building up and no calming things down. A lot of times, it's a little bit of both. We'll do some of those things to kind of lower that guard a little bit, and then slowly kind of work to build it up. In the extreme cases, if someone has no pain and they just have recovered from an injury and they're coming to me, they went to their general physical therapist and they just want a bit more of a guided approach to getting back to the gym. They have no pain, they're feeling great. They just want to make sure that they kind of get back into it and don't do too much too soon. That person, we're going to do all build it up. We're not going to really have to
Right.
calm it down because it's already calmed down. So then it's just that
Right.
gradual increase in exposure to those movements versus the person who, you know, was squatting and at the bottom of a squat felt a sharp pain in their back and now they can't walk and they're hunched over. That person, we're probably not going to work on squatting that day.
Yeah.
We're probably going to have more of a spa day and do
That checks out.
more of the calm it down things. But outside of those extremes, usually it's some kind of dance and play between the two of them.
That'll make sense. So you've been working with 3DMJ since 2018. You've been working both with powerlifting athletes and natural bodybuilders. What are some of the most common injuries that you've seen with natural bodybuilders that come to mind?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when it comes to bodybuilders and powerlifters, um, the principles are the same. The same principles are at play. Calm it down, build it up, graded exposure, ruling out red flags. Um, but the tools that we use are a bit different. Um, Bodybuilders have way more freedom and many more options than powerlifters because at the end of the day, powerlifters have to do their specific task that they have to do. Um, Hypertrophy, maintaining muscle while in a prep. As long as we're taking the muscle somewhere close to failure, we should be okay. We could do Bulgarian split squats on a park bench, which I did in my 2022 prep when my second daughter was just about 1 year old. She would get up real early, so I was always up early and training in my basement. So I would scoop her up, put her in her stroller, and I would start getting my steps in. I was doing legs at the park, like I said, like some split squats on a bench and pull ups on the monkey bars, and she's just sitting there watching me doing her thing. But had I been a power lifter, that would be a lot harder. I can't just go down to my basement and do a couple sets of deficit push-ups and curls and triceps and then finish my workout in another hour. I need to load as heavily as I can if I'm a power lifter. So a bit more restricted when it comes to powerlifting. So the most common injuries, all the usual suspects, a lot of shoulder injuries, lower back, knees. Those are probably the three big ones. And they all come with different characteristics. So many times we something that would aggravate one person's shoulder feels great for someone else. So it's really difficult to like have consistencies across different diagnoses, and sometimes it's a bit confusing because say let's say like knee pain. Um, Someone has knee pain at the bottom of a squat. Okay, cool. Let's do this, try this, try this, try this. And then like we get a different person who has knee pain at the top of a squat. I'm like, okay. You would think intuitively like knee pain, bottom of the squat, but sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes people have pain going up the stairs. Sometimes people don't. Sometimes people have pain going down the stairs. Other times people don't. So yeah, I would say that it's just more of a case of taking that person as a whole person, finding out a bit about them, a bit about their pain, what makes it better, what makes it worse. But I would definitely say shoulders, lower back, and knees are probably the most common. And the mechanism of injury is rarely an actual mechanism. Usually, it's just something that kind of gradually has gotten worse, and now it's at a point where it's not really able to be self-managed. It could be getting worse, and it's starting to limit kind of bleeding into like daily activities. Like it's one thing to you know not be able to do a curl with your palms facing up, but if you can do like a hammer curl, like okay, not that big of a deal. But then when that progresses to I can't like take a gallon of milk out of the refrigerator, then it's like okay, I need to get this thing checked out. So very rarely is it an actual injury, and that's because bodybuilding and weightlifting it's just not that dangerous. It's very
Yeah.
controlled. We're not like cutting on a field. We don't have someone like chasing after us to try to tackle us. We're not trying to juke people out on the field. So yeah, I find that it's not so much actual injuries as it is like these kind of overuse kind of things.
Right. Yeah, that's something that I was curious about is kind of the frequency in which you'd see someone like experience an acute injury, like when they throw their back out doing a squat or a deadlift or something like that, versus someone that kind of develops or aggravates a nagging pain, making it worse to the point of all okay, now all of a sudden it is an injury where I not only can I not do bench press, but I can't actually lift my arm above my head anymore. So I was curious about that because that's almost exclusively been the kind of injury that I would run into for myself over the years is it starts out something that starts out as like, yeah, I think it kind of hurts to like, oh crap, I really made it worse. So that checks out.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, and that even myself, like I've gone through that process as well. Yeah, an ache or pain, and you kind of go through that first line of defense. And if something hurts, uh, my first thought would be do it again and see if it hurts again, because sometimes things just hurt and then they don't hurt. They don't hurt again after that. So if something hurts, try it again. And if it still hurts, then try to modify. If the modification doesn't work, try to modify something else. And then once it gets to that point, like you're saying, it's starting to really like I can't even lift my arm up. Then we know that we've kind of passed that. Maybe I could do this on my own kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, you should have stopped earlier. You should have changed something earlier. Yeah, totally. Have you actually, I'll speak for myself first. One of the biggest struggles that I found when navigating those kind of pains and like trying to figure things out and see like I'll try something new and yeah and it's like yeah that still hurts or and then it does get worse and one of the things that I and I probably would say the biggest thing I struggle with and I have clients that really struggle with this too, which is and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, managing your mindset when you experience these kind of nagging pains, because something that I found both with myself and some of my clients is that it can be really upsetting when we start to feel these kind of nagging pains where all of a sudden like anxiety sets in, you experience a kind of panic like uh-oh, my elbow hurts, I can't do bicep curls anymore, now my arms are going to start shrinking or I can't do pull-ups or whatever, and it's like yeah, I think that's the best way I can describe it is it's almost like this kind of a panic. So from your experience, do you how would you kind of walk someone through the process of not making the injury worse and managing their mindset to help with that? I don't know if that question makes sense, but what do you think?
100%. And it's funny, like you're such a great interviewer. I don't know if you really did your homework and just like really know about me and things I talk about on podcasts. But to ask that question, it makes me very excited to answer. So yeah, man, the mental effect of pain and injury. Um, I think the the most significant part of. Have you ever heard the quote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality"?
I haven't, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So what that to me kind of means with pain and injury is we always sometimes all we need is a bit of reassurance. The unknown is kind of where we suffer, where we kind of beat ourselves up. Um, And the issue is that with the amount of information out there nowadays, there's a lot of misinformation. And if someone has pain in their back and they start looking through social media or looking through Google or actually ChatGPT and different AI systems, um, have been quite impressive when it comes to like I've tried like looking up like, hey, I have back pain, what could it be, and what do I do for it? And it's actually pretty darn good, way better than like the old Google searching, like where all different things would pop up. But you ask someone in your family, ask a friend, and then everyone has all these reasons why your back hurts. And all of a sudden, you start to think, "Oh my gosh! Like I'm never going to lift again. I'm never going to pick up my kids someday. I got a disc that's popping out of my spine. Like this is horrible. My nerves are going to get irritated." And they kind of goes down that kind of like spiral. And training and lifting is not just a hobby for people like us. It's who we are. Um, I was just on vacation. My family has a house in uh, upstate New York. So New York obviously is the city, but then the state of New York is all like mountains and woods and it's gorgeous. So my family has a house up there. So we went up there. My daughters, my brother, his family, and one morning I got up and some people were still sleeping, some people were just kind of waking up, and I went out and in kind of the woods and got a workout in, kind of like the park bench kind of thing. Like I did some split squats on a fallen down tree, did some pull ups on a couple branches, bunch of push ups. I managed to do like a horizontal, like an inverted row, like I propped my feet up on something and was doing like pull ups on like another like broken down tree. Did I get like a Mr. Olympia workout in? No, but I got a damn good pump and my legs were screaming. But my point of that is then I go back into the environment with my family. I had that time to myself. I got kind of did my training session, and not because I felt like I was going to lose muscle. Like there's a big difference there. Like it's not like I'm doing it because I think I'm going to lose my physique or something that I have. I'm doing it because I enjoy it and it makes me a better husband, a better father, a better son, better brother. So when that is jeopardized and that's taken away from people like us, it could be quite impactful. One story that I've shared on a bunch of podcasts is because it really hit made me realize this firsthand. Um, my Do you know the story about my car and when I got my oil changed and it was smelling like burning oil? I don't know if you remember.
It's ringing a bell, but I'd love for you to explain again.
So my car is from 2004. It's a beast. I love it. It's a Toyota Rav4, so shout out to Toyota. I got 110,000 miles on it, and the car is over 20 years old. So that's my baby right there. Um, and I got my oil changed, as a good car owner does. And I was the next couple of days, I started smelling like burning gas and burning oil, and I'm like, oh, great! Like this is it. Like this is it. Like at the time, I think I had I think my wife was pregnant, and I had the one baby, and I'm like, this is horrible timing. Like, my engine's shot. I'm gonna need to buy a new car. Like, I've tried to keep this old car for this long, and now it's finally like reality is setting in. I'm gonna have to buy a car somehow. I got this new baby coming. It's I'm thinking my mind is going down this road of all the next steps that I'm gonna have to take. I bring the car to my mechanic. I call him up. I'm like, hey, Mike, like, look, my car just, I smell oil burning. Like, I got to bring it into you. I don't even know if it's safe to drive. Like, I got to bring the kids to my parents. I don't even want to put them in the car. Like, I don't know if it's dangerous. All right, bring it down. So I bring it down. He pops the hood. He's like, Nick, come here for a second. I'm like, all right, how bad is it? Tell me. And he's like, look at this. And he showed me. And what happened was, uh, the cap, like, that goes on my oil where they do the oil change, I guess, they left it on the side of my engine. Like, they just didn't put it back on. So as I was driving, like, some oil drops were like squirting out and just burning up on the engine. So he's just put the top back on. He's like, your car's fixed. But the point of that story is that before he told me that, like, my mechanic didn't do anything. He didn't even, like, if we're talking about an injury, he didn't lay his hands on me. He didn't release any muscles. He didn't do anything. All he did was give me reassurance. He educated me. He showed me what happened. He set my mind at ease, and that is so important, and so much of what I do every day in the office and with athletes virtually is just listen, hear them out, um, ask more questions, ask follow up questions, and then provide them some reassurance when it's appropriate. I don't know where I heard it from, but someone told me when you are trying to build rapport with someone or trying to, uh, so a lot of the patient physical therapist or patient doctor relationship is all about trust and building that rapport. And the way to do that, it was, I heard, I don't know where, is to imagine you're interviewing them. Like, imagine this is like the interview of a lifetime. Like, you got, like, I don't know, jeez, who's like I don't know, Abraham Lincoln. I don't know, Abraham Lincoln, like, sitting in front of you, and he's like, yes, yes, like, I took some time out of my day for you, Nick. What would you like to ask me? And I'm just like, everything. Like, I want to know everything about, like, everything. And so, like, if you can go to an interaction with a patient, like, your average old lady that walks in my office, you just go into that conversation like, wow, like, but tell me more. Like, that's so interesting. That fascinates me, and genuinely, like, want to know about them. Um, that to me is such a superpower in not even just the professional setting, but just in life in general, just in conversation with people. And not to go too off topic here, but I think a lot of the conflict with people and different political views, and I think if people would just sit back and just listen and just ask questions, even if they don't agree, and just give people time to air their thoughts out, and then they'll be more ready to hear other opposing thoughts. Like, I don't know, I think people should learn to listen and ask a bit more before they speak. Anyway, that's kind of the at the core of the mental aspect and mental contribution of pain. Is sometimes just a matter of, I'm here to listen to you, I want to know everything about everything, and here's some reassurance that I'm going to provide you. This is something that we see quite often. I'm not seeing red flags. If I saw X, Y, and Z, then I would maybe want to send you to a doctor to get another look at it. If I saw something like this, maybe I would want to send you to the hospital to get a quick image on your spine. But Mrs. Smith, I'm not seeing any of that. You have so many things going for you. You're able to sit to the chair and stand back up. You're able to get in and out of your car. You did the stairs this morning. You picked up your grandson over the weekend. Like, you got so many things going for you, Mrs. Smith. I really think that give it a couple weeks of therapy, and I really think you're going to start to feel better really soon. Like, that conversation right there can completely change someone's life, can completely change someone's their life, their people they interact with's life. The barista at Starbucks that they go to after the physical therapy because they're in a better mood, they feel better about themselves and their condition. It's so important. The mental aspect of this stuff is way more powerful to me, I think, than the physical.
Hearing you share all of that is really really clicking with me. The concept of reassurance, and I love the story of the your Toyota, because it's true. It seems so common for so many people to have it as a default to catastrophize and like think as soon as we see something go out just a little bit with whatever it is, to think of like all of the worst possible case scenarios that could be a possibility but probably aren't. So like, experiencing a little bit of shoulder pain or elbow pain or whatever, you're thinking about like, oh, I'm not going to be the same anymore. But really it's like you go see someone like you, or or you just take it a little bit easier, you kind of talk yourself through it if you're capable of that. You get that reassurance and knowing that, oh, it's going to be okay, it'll probably be fine in a couple days, as long as you don't do anything to make it worse, or you're careful with it. But just having that kind of reassurance makes all the difference. It's like just having peace of mind is such a big deal. I'm thinking back too of, like you brought up, looking stuff up online if you experience an ache or a pain, and now there's chat GPT and all sorts of AI tools that you can use that are probably a lot more helpful than, say, even 5 years ago. I can remember for myself when I was younger, like 10 years ago, Googling like elbow pain, like tendonitis, tendinopathy, that sort of thing. And, I've got a sore back, and, a lot of the top hits that you would get are the worst case scenarios. Like, you might have to get surgery. And it's like, I don't know anything about surgery. I don't want someone digging in there. I'm not going to be able to do bicep curls properly after that. I'm going to have to take months off of training. Like, but yeah, no, those points they really resonate with me, because I think that's something that I've had to learn oftentimes the hard way, is just being able to talk myself through that. As long as I'm careful, these aches and pains, it's going to be okay. Even if it is something that's a little bit more serious, God forbid, it's still going to be end up being okay, because the human body still heals. It's not the end of the world. Um, but yeah, that's really, really interesting. Do you find that different personalities that you've worked with, do you find that people, their recoveries are different based off of their personality, like different personalities? I know for me, I've changed over the years when I experience these nagging pains, and I feel like I recover a lot quicker nowadays, largely from what you've just talked through, like, because I'm able to reassure myself like it's not a big deal. I can like work through it, work around it, and it's going to be okay. So it's like I have more mental resilience that's kind of built into my personality. It's a trait that I think I've developed. I feel like I heal a lot more quickly because of that. But I found that in the past, when I have panicked a lot more, or if I'm more, what's the right word, like neurotic, I suppose, about more panicky in general, it just takes longer to heal. Have you found that to be the case, where like different personalities tend to be able to handle these kind of injuries better or worse? Or what's your experience with that?
Absolutely. With the virtual work, it's a bit different because the sample that I'm getting usually are in our sphere. Like, so a lot of the people that know me from 3DMJ. So they have followed 3DMJ's content. They come into me asking the right questions. Yeah, they're anxious and things like that sometimes, but for the most part, um, they're a different breed of people usually that I work with online. But in the office, um, definitely a wide range of mentalities and personalities that walk through the door. So the very high anxiety, and you just know just from talking to them, like it's like So, Mrs. Smith, bring me up to speed on what's going on. And like you're just like your shoulders go up, like like. But so that person, just like biologically, that energy, that like cortisol release in the body will have an impact on pain sensitivity. So it's my job in that instance to bring my cadence down a bit and try to slow her down a bit and maybe add some jokes in there or talk about if she mentions I'll go back to the dog kind of thing like and my dog like have to go to the vet and okay what kind of dog do you have and then she's just like it's a golden retriever. Oh, golden retrievers! Like there must be like what's his name? Is it a boy or a girl? And then we start talking about the dog. And oh my gosh, like yeah, like my aunt had a golden. And is there a lot of hair? Does it shed a lot? Oh, you don't understand the hair. Like and then we start. Then we kind of calm down a little bit. And then after we talk about something like that, then all right, cool. Now bring me up to speed again on the shoulder. Like how did it all happen? But if we can find a way to kind of change that mindset a little bit and just that energy, just to shift it a bit, um,
Right.
that's key. And another, actually, not so much anxiety, another hard personality um, to to have a positive change on are the people that come in with preconceived ideas of what's happening, people that come in asking to have their hips adjusted because their hips are out of alignment, or people that
Right.
come in and have been to other providers or have read things online and they're like, "Yep, it's like it's my SI joint. I just need you to adjust my pelvis." The last PT I went to like used to put his hands on my pelvis and like do a little pull here and like a push here, and then I would feel so much better and like all like back into alignment. So I just need you to like do that, and and then that's a tough thing because you
Yeah.
don't want to you don't throw like randomized control trials at people, um, and you also don't if they truly believe those things and they feel a certain way about them and maybe they feel a certain way about the people that told them about those things. I can't just come in and say like, there's really no research to support those things. What you felt was probably just like a short-term relief of some pain because the person like pulled on you really fast and that just kind of did something to help with the pain in the short term. It's not the right time to have that conversation. So you have to kind of ease into it a little bit and say like, okay, cool. Like, so it seems like that provider really helped you out a lot. Yeah, he like adjusted my hips and oh, okay, so he checked your hips and he kind of thought they were off a bit, and yeah, like my hips are off, and almost they sometimes come to the conclusion themselves, like just with some questioning, and maybe they'll say like, yeah, and I was a little bit skeptical too, like how could someone like adjust my hips like with their hands, but I don't know, Nick, like it felt a lot better afterwards, so maybe they didn't really adjust my hips, but it felt better afterwards. Bingo. That's like my okay, perfect. Like, you know what? Actually, some of the research out there does kind of support what you just said. Like, we don't really see many adjustments of the actual pelvis, but it makes you feel better. So maybe that's something we can look into throughout your treatment. So it's that kind of conversation, to kind
Right.
of, and not like to manipulate their mind, but just to help them get a bit healthier look at the situation
Right.
almost.
That makes a lot of sense. So someone that has like a previously established belief, you more or less have to give them just you have to know just the right things to say or just enough of what the right approach is going to be, introduce that to them in steps to kind of just help them shift their perspective enough to kind of hopefully introduce something that's actually going to help them. It's kind of like the Socratic teaching method. You kind of introduce just as much as they need so they can think about it themselves to kind of figure out like, oh, I don't need a hip adjustment. I just needed the X, Y, and Z instead. And it's kind of like they figure that out on their own if you give them just enough of what they need to hear in the moment. Because yeah, no, that makes sense. And if you start spewing out studies, then they're going to be like, well, and their walls will be up. But yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense.
And the other thing
Um,
with that example, sometimes I will, if there is another provider that they reference, sometimes I'll just call that person up, because a lot can be lost in translation from provider to patient
Right.
to provider. So maybe that person's perception of what that other person did was, yeah, he just like adjusted my hips and I felt a lot better. But now if I call that person like, hey, I'm treating Mrs. Smith. She said she's, you seem to really help her. And actually, I just had the situation happen. A patient of mine spends half the year in Florida and then half the year up by me in like the New York area. So I called his PT in Florida and I said like, hey, like he said he's been doing great down there. I'm going to continue his care up here. What have you been doing? Like, I'd love to kind of get an idea of your approach. This way we're not like reinventing the wheel. And it was a great conversation. Like, I got insight onto what he was doing, and it was kind of a seamless transition in between us. But sometimes like, that's not exactly what happens when what the patient says. So it's important to always like consult with other people in the field if there's any like discrepancy of what you think what you think happened, rather than just take the patient like, oh yeah, like that guy didn't know what he was talking about. I can't believe he did that to you. Always make sure you double check what the patient's saying.
That makes sense. Yeah. One person could think like, yeah, I just received a hip adjustment, but the practitioner would like there could be a lot more to it than just whatever they think is actually going on, and it
and
can be tough to have a good grasp and understanding of what's actually going on.
and the person, maybe they did adjust their hips or something, but they may have also said, Mrs. Smith, this probably isn't really adjusting your hips. It's probably going to give you just a short-term relief of some pain, but we can try it if you want to. But then Mrs. Smith forgets to tell me that. So then I'm thinking like there's this person out there.
You're trying to put the puzzle pieces together. What am I missing here?
Yeah.
Um, this is fascinating. I want to ask you more specifically about your specific background with natural bodybuilding. But before we do that, I've got a couple questions that have just sparked up that I'm really curious about as we're talking. The effects of cortisol on recovery. So we're talking about different personalities and being anxious about like you know, what could happen if I experience a pain, and cortisol spiking because of that. Super open-ended question here, but what kind of an effect from your experience do you know of that does cortisol have on like the recovery process overall? I know that is a super open-ended question, but
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. And I think similarly, a similar question would be, how much of an impact does sleep have on
yeah,
recovery or a
that could have
bodybuilding?
been my next one.
Yeah, right. Like cortisol, sleep. How much does this really affect fat loss or our ability in a contest prep or recovery from injury? Um, this is not research based, but in my anecdotal experience, I used to think those things mattered a lot more. If before I had kids, and I would, if I slept 6 to 7 hours, I would think, oh my gosh, like I'm filling up with fluid and body fat because like I didn't get my 8 to 9 hours.
That extra hour.
Yeah, or if I was getting stressed about something, I'm like, oh no, I'm depositing fat like in all the wrong areas. So then I have come to realize that there are all types of people that are shredded on that bodybuilding stage. Um, Actually, um, Brett Freeman. So I did compete with Brett in 2022 at the Mr. America. Um, he took he was the place right in front of me. I forget what places we took though. But anyway, I went to Worlds as a spectator when I first started up with 3DMJ, and Brett was there competing, and he won the entire lightweight class. He was just unbelievable. But I was talking to him like backstage, and he's like, "Yeah, I haven't slept in like 3 days. I drove. He's like, I drove like 8 hours to go pick up someone, and then like I just drank a bunch of coffee to stay awake, and then like I'm exaggerating the story. If Brett is listening, like forgive me, Brett. But like basically, he just spent the past like 3 days traveling from wherever he lived to get to Long Island, New York for Worlds. Um, like slept maybe like 2 or 3 hours in the past like 2 or 3 days. Um, Drinking coffee, energy drinks to stay awake. Like I think he had his stepson with him at the time too. His wife was with him, and like they're like trying to find their hotel and like where they're gonna eat. And meanwhile, he's got to go get tanned and like get his trunks and get backstage and his number and where am I lining up. And he won the whole show. So I'm like, hold on a second. Like that doesn't fit my mental model of how sleep impacts the body. Um, and granted, I know everyone's different. So some people may be affected by those things more than other people. I also don't know if this is true, but I think that there's probably um, an adaptation that happens. So if someone is chronically underslept, I'm sure there are problems down the road, or I'm sure they're not that sharp during the day, or maybe they're falling asleep when they sit in a chair. But I would imagine if we take the one example of me, newly married, like no children, 8 to 9 hours of sleep, and all of a sudden you give that guy 5.5 hours of sleep. I may have more of a fluid spike. I may have more of a fat retention. I may look a bit less defined, less cut. Maybe I'll be holding on to some more water that day. Um, versus me now, where if I get 5.5 hours a night, like that's pretty good. Like for me at this point, not like trying to brag, like oh I sleep 5 hours, but just the phase of my life. With the kids and with different professional endeavors. That's just kind of the phase that I'm in now. I don't. It's not a long term strategy, but I've been kind of running with that for a bit. I've competed with that much sleep. I can't say that my physique looked that much different from children to not having children and sleeping 8 to 9 hours. I just haven't seen it on stage. Um, uh, but I think back to the 8 to 9 hours sleep person and then the random 5 hours sleep, that impact I think is different than me now. If I sleep 5.5 hours, I don't know that it's affecting me quite as much as it would if it were a drastic change. So again, all anecdotal, all just speculation, but I think that perhaps certain people are affected differently by stress and sleep, and perhaps there's a bit of an adaptation effect where if you if gradually kind of decrease your sleep, perhaps it has less of an impact on those things. Um, but I don't know. And then is the reverse like there? It wouldn't make sense for the reverse to be true. Like if I sleep 5 hours and then I sleep 8 hours, like I just wake up shredded. Like so, I don't know. It's I know there is research on it, but I know for a fact there's no like meta analyses that show like bodybuilders on stage that were X amount stressed and have slept this much, and then you can see like that just said this study will never exist. So it's a good question. I think the takeaway is do what you can. It's always a good thing to manage your stress properly. It's always a good thing to sleep. If, however, you find yourself stressed, if you find yourself with less sleep than usual, don't don't think much about it. Move on and just try to do the best you can with the circumstances that you have.
That's awesome. I think it's like such a human thing, right? Like we want to be able to put labels on things and put things into boxes like sleep and stress. Like sleep and stress is bad. Like you don't want that for bodybuilding. It's bad for building muscle and recovering, but it's never that simple. Like there's can be all sorts of different case studies like you shared about even yourself in different situations where differing levels of sleep might have some effect on the body, but it might not seem to have very much effect at all, or at least not a noticeable amount, depending again on the context. And Yeah, I think it's interesting. I used to be really dogmatic about getting enough sleep too and kind of panicking if I didn't get enough sleep, but I found the same thing, like the differences between like if work's really crazy, I end up sleeping less for a week and it's not the end of the it's never been the end of the world. It's never made a huge difference for me. Um
You know what's funny?
that
I've had some of the best workouts of my life on like
oh,
4 hours of sleep.
yeah. Yeah, it's weird.
Especially with the kids, like there'll be the nights when I go to sleep late and then they're just up at night, and then like I know I have to train first thing in the morning because I have a full day of work, and I'm just like, well, like you pick up the bar and you're like here we go, this is where I'm going to tear my hamstring. And then next thing you know, I hit a PR,
PR.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
what the heck? Like, how's that work? And I'm not a big caffeine
Oh
person. Like,
man.
I'm not like downing like energy. I don't really use caffeine much. But yeah, man, there's just something about the human body that I think is it's never so black and white. I think as people may think.
I heard someone, this is outside of like the natural bodybuilding fitness world. He brought up a really good point, and I think it's totally true. He said that it seems like the people that accomplish like the most awesome things in life, and again, this example is like not fitness related. He's like these guys and these women, a lot of them just like kind of get a lot of they experience a lot of periods of bad sleep, and they end up being the ones that accomplish some of the most amazing things. So I think that's kind of true with the bodybuilding. It's like the Brett Freeman story. I've heard a story about him too. I think it was with him where he like had to like day of competing at Worlds, like I'm not sure which year it was. He had to like walk like 5 miles or something from his hotel. Like his car wasn't working or something like that. I don't know what the story was, but he ended up winning that Worlds, I think. And it's like, well, that's not ideal. But hey, maybe Brett's on to something, and that like that's the key with a successful peak week that we're all trying to find the secret is like you don't sleep, you live off of just pure caffeine, and then you walk for like 10 miles to Worlds.
I remember that
Um,
story. I feel like he took a bus and then like the bus was off at the wrong stop or something.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like meanwhile, like anyone else at a bodybuilding show is just worried about the normal stuff. Like, oh man, like is my tan? Did I bump my tan like on the chair when I sat down? Meanwhile, Brett's like taking yeah, buses, and
No
I
big
gotta
deal.
reach out to Brett. I haven't talked to him in a while. He's a great guy.
Um, do you find that big topic, but like with social media, something that I see a lot of is like fitness content is don't do this exercise because it's going to lead to an injury. Do this exercise instead. Don't move this way. Do this way. It's almost like I feel like it plays a big role nowadays in creating kind of a hysteria around or a fear around just a hyper fixation around like exercise selection and not lifting too heavy or almost being too careful. It's kind of maybe the best way to articulate it is it's like it's leading people to think they are more fragile than they actually are. I think that's kind of what my perspective is. That's what I'm trying to say is I feel like because of social media, it leaves a lot of people to feel more fragile than they actually are. Um, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that, the impact of social media and how that changes their mindset on how they approach training and like any fear of injury or the rate in which they experience injury. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a really important topic. I think um, in a world of do this, not this, and green checks and red X's on different exercises
Exactly what I'm thinking.
that, and even healthcare providers that will. I can't tell you how many times people will come to me with back pain or knee pain that work out, and they will come to me and the doctor will tell them you don't squat, you know, for 6 weeks, or definitely no deadlifting because that's going to make your back worse, or you know, you're 40 years old, why are you deadlifting? Like, you're not a kid anymore. Like, just go do some light weights and stay in shape. um, and those kind of messages are just so toxic to someone. Not really in our world. Like, if a doctor ever told us like, "Oh, just don't squat," we'd be like, "Uh huh, okay." like, and then just go squat like the next day probably. But for your average person who's getting into the gym, who's excited about working out, they kind of like the feeling. They're not crazy like us, but they're still like, this is awesome. Like, I'm feeling like I'm finding myself in the gym here. And then the doctor's like, oh, by the way, like I said, you're 40, you're 50 years old. Like, there's no need to deadlift. And they're kind of like, oh man, like, okay, I guess he's right. Like, who am I to think that I could still deadlift? Like, I'm going to end up hurting myself, and then that's very limiting. And like you said, fragility, like it makes them feel fragile and weak. So when it comes to that topic, it's important for to remember that there's really no good or bad movements. Um, it's really have we earned the ability to do that movement in that fashion. Um, a deadlift is not unsafe, but if a person who's never deadlift before tried to pick up a bar with 185 pounds on it, I would call that a dangerous deadlift. um, but it's all what we've adapted to. So things like sissy squats, or just letting the knee go over the toe in general, or squatting like with heel to butt range of motion. That's great, but if you haven't done that before, then it's probably not a great thing. When I was up in the mountains and I was doing my split squats in the middle of the woods, um, I was facing downhill, so my foot was kind of pointed forward, almost like a heel lift. Like I had like a natural Mother Nature's heel lift doing split squats on a mountain. Um, so I was going real deep into my split squats with a lift of my heel. That's a lot of force onto my knee and my quads. But I've done those things for years and years. I've done deep Bulgarian split squats in my basement for years. Um, so is that a dangerous movement for me? No. But if I took my brother with me, who works out but not quite like me, and I was like, "Hey, follow me. Like, we'll do this workout together." And he jumps up there, puts one foot forward, one foot back, bang! Like all of a sudden, he's got ripping pain in his kneecap, and he's got some kind of tendon issue now. So is that a good movement for him? No, no way. Like we need to modify that, limit the range of motion, do it on a flat surface, not an inclined surface. Um, so it to me, it's all what you've adapted to be able to do. If I tried to rock climb, I'm sure my hands and my forearms would be completely annihilated for the next week. So was that a good thing for me to do? Probably not at that dosage that I did it at. But is it a bad thing for someone that does that every day? Absolutely not. I shoot archery as well since I was like 3 years old. I shoot archery. Um, if I don't shoot for a while, when I start to shoot again, I have a lot of soreness in my hand and my shoulders. But that's just because I've not adapted to that again yet. So, um, as far as good and bad movements, I don't like when that like those terms are thrown around. I think there's way more context to it, and you can really train yourself to do almost everything. Like look at people that work in like the circus or like gymnasts. They've gradually exposed themselves to those movements. You watch a gymnast at the Olympics, and that's not their first time doing that. They've done it over and over and over and over again since they were 5 years old, 6 years old, doing those same movements over and over and over. So their bodies are made to do that stuff. Whereas if I tried to do a split, I'd probably tear something. So yeah, it's all about what we've earned the right to do when it comes to good and bad movements.
That's amazing. It's almost nowadays it's almost hard not to feel annoyed when like for myself to see that kind of polarizing content, X exercise good, X exercise bad when like you mentioned it's so context dependent. Uh, It depends on the person's skill set, their experience level, how strong they already are and um yeah, those are all such good points. Um How are you doing for time? I still wanna ask you a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm
Are
good.
you okay?
Yep.
Okay. Um, so rewinding a little bit, you're a pro natural bodybuilder too. You help a lot of athletes. You help bodybuilders, powerlifters, and other people that come into your in-person practice,
Mhm.
right? Um, how many times have you competed? How many times have you prepped? When did you start? Big open-ended question again.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with like the professional status, like getting the pro card. It was awesome. It was something that I wanted so badly, um, and it doesn't mean all that much in the grand scheme of things because um, all that means is that on that particular day in that particular show, I happened to win my weight class, and then I happened to win the overall. But I remember at the time I had gotten my pro card, and Matt Ogus like didn't, and I'm like, well, that's kind of silly. Like I'm here like with my pro card, and like very proud, but also like that's how do I have this status, but someone like Matt Ogus doesn't? And so it's it's while I'm very proud of having it, I also understand the limitations of it because there are bodybuilders that are way genetically gifted, way more and just way better than me that haven't achieved their pro status yet. They're just competing in different shows and maybe the different federations. And so, yes, I am a pro, but I definitely take that for what it's worth. Like it's awesome to have, and I'm super proud of it. But it's not. You can't really like. I can't really compare myself to other bodybuilders by me having a pro card and or someone not having one. But so my first. I've always been interested in weightlifting and getting stronger and I was into the muscle magazines like Muscle and Fitness early on in high school. And then when I hit college, I lived away at college. That was when it really kind of took off for me. Um, I was like deep into the bro science of the magazines, but I would always have I would always look for the articles written by like the PhD and want to focus on that more than like the article written by like the juice head like guy who just was like a monster and was like, oh bro, like do 100 sets of curls in one day and grow your arms by an inch. Like I never gravitated toward that stuff, but I was still very deep in the magazines. I have my early magazines, I still have them. They have pages that are folded and highlights and circles and like notes on the sides, the margins. And I just remember reading those magazines over and over and over and over again. And so living home, I was kind of limited in how much I can implement those things I was learning because dinner time was when mom made dinner and what we had for dinner, like that's what mom made that night. And um, going out and friends and dinner and stuff like that, it was just a bit different. Um, so I didn't really do like the grocery shopping. I did some of it, but like I was kind of at the mercy of whatever was in the house. Not that my family ate unhealthy, but it's just different. So when I went to college, then like the obsessive bodybuilder mentality, like weighing things to the ounce, and like the every 2.5 to 3 hours I was eating, like I was throwing like cottage cheese and like Ziploc bags like in my backpack. Like I remember vividly. Here's a story for you. I would fill the Ziploc bag with cottage cheese, zip it shut, and then I would bite like the corner off the end, and then like slurp it down. But the cottage cheese would be like in my pocket for like a good like 3 hours because I would go to
Oh
class
man.
or whatever and didn't want to carry a cooler, so I would be slurping like warm cottage cheese out of a Ziploc bag. So there's a good image for you. But anyway, so that was my undergrad college. But I'll tell you what, it kept me out of trouble. My wife and I have been dating. My wife and I have been dating since high school. So I left high school and went to college, and I think bodybuilding really just kind of kept me like focused on school and lifting and nutrition. And I went out maybe once in college, and I was just real focused on my studies and the gym. So yeah, but that was the height of my obsessive bodybuilding phase. And then when I graduated undergrad, and then I went to grad school into PT school. In 2023, that was my second year of physical therapy school. That was when I first competed. Um, why did I decide to compete? I was listening to the radio, and I was on my way to school or leaving the gym. I forget. I used to pass the gym to go to school, so I was in the area of the gym. And the person on the radio was just kind of stopped what they were doing. It was a morning show. They're usually pretty funny, and they just everything was silent. And this guy was just like speaking to my soul, and he was like, "Look, if I don't know if someone had just died who was real young or something, and he was just like, look, if there's something you want to do it now. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Give it a shot. If you fail, so what? At least you tried. Just do it. If there's something that you're thinking of doing, but then you keep putting it out of your mind, you think people are going to think things about you, I don't want to really do it. If you have a little seed of something you want to do, just try it and just do it." And I was like, huh. And then at the same time, there was someone, I forget who it was. Someone came up to me and they were like this like beer belly, like in their like 50s, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I remember when I was 20 years old. Like I looked like that too when I was 20." And in my mind, I'm like, "No, you didn't. Like you probably like
Yeah.
not that I was like this great like bodybuilder at the time, but I'm like, you did not look like this. Like I worked really hard for the way that I look." And so I said, I definitely need something like a photo shoot or like some kind of snapshot of this moment right now because I'm putting a lot of effort into the way that I look and I would like to remember it somehow. And I remember the magazines and like I would always like fantasize about being in a magazine and having like a photo shoot. And so all those things combined, I was like, what the heck? Like, let me just ask someone at the gym who I knew competed. There were pictures of him on the wall. I asked him like, hey, where do you go to compete? Like, how does it all work? And he kind of took me under his wing, introduced me to some people, told me which websites to go on to get registrations, and didn't do anything with the prep with me. Like, I kind of just did it by myself. Actually, jumping ahead a bit, I used to look up at his picture in the gym and just be like, man, like that is like that would be amazing to have my picture up someday. And after I competed, he asked for my picture and he put it up next to him in a frame in Retro Fitness in Belleville, New Jersey. Um, so that was pretty cool. But anyway, he got me into it. He pointed me in the right direction where to go. My first show was in April of 2013. I was in the novice class. I weighed 165 pounds, I think. Um, my upper body looked probably like maybe like the leanest guy on the beach. My lower body looked like I had never dieted before. um, I think I took second in the novice. Got some cool pictures for sure from the waist up. But then I realized I had to get leaner. Um, I also realized that judges' feedback should be taken with a grain of salt because I asked the judge, "How do I get more definition in my quads?" And he said, "You gotta squeeze harder at the top of a leg extension." So I was like, "Oh, got it. Like I'm not squeezing hard enough. Gotcha." Not that I'm 20 pounds above stage weight. Um, so then, I was 2013. I think I competed again that year, and then I want to say again in 2014. I think I competed 2 years in a row. Then, and I just kept getting leaner and leaner. I just didn't take an off
Yeah.
season. I just kept dieting. Uh, and then, so that was 2013. I was on stage at 165. Off season was like 180, 185 pounds. And then by 2016, I stepped on stage as 129 pounds. So I had dropped way down.
Wow.
I was all skin, like just shredded, but very little size on me. And that was the season I won my pro card. So I competed maybe like 2 or 3 times, and then I hadn't won my pro card, and all the judges' feedback on those shows were like, "You got to get bigger. You got to get bigger." I'm like, I just dieted like 4 years of my life to try to get leaner, and now you're saying I got to get bigger. So then I said, well, you know what? I'll take an off season. I'll put on some size, and then we'll rinse and repeat. but I'm not stopping until I get that pro card. Because I was so close too. Like that was the thing. Like I was the runner up so many times to that pro card. So I think it was like that carrot in front of me. Um, and then this actually Mark Torriello, who runs the Mr. America, Mark and I are friends, and we live in the same town. So anyway, he said, Nick, there's this show coming up in July, and I'm like, Mark, I'm done for the season. Like, I'm just pretty like feeling pretty down about everything. Like, I want to just have an off season. He's like, yeah, all right. He's like, it's a pro qualifier, but no, you're right. Like, you probably like you take your off season, do what you got to do. And so he planted the seed in my head. So I said, you know what? I'll just do this one more show. And it was in Pennsylvania. It was like a 2-hour drive from where I lived. My girlfriend at the time, jumped in the car. We drove to Pennsylvania. And I ended up winning the pro card at that show. So after that, and it was around that time too that I was really getting deep into 3DMJ. And I knew what I was doing was not right. I knew what I was doing was not healthy. I knew what I was doing was not good for my bodybuilding career. Like it just wasn't good anywhere. I was just blindly chasing that pro card. But I was in so deep that I was like, well, let me just keep trying. And then, so got the pro card. And then after that, I was like, okay, I've satisfied like that, I guess, immature like drive to get this thing. Now I can look at this as a mature bodybuilder and let me see like what is actually going to help me, what's going to help like my family. Like my wife, or would like to make her my wife, have a family. Like I need to start rearranging my priorities here. And I was just starting out my career and was advancing in promotions in my career too. So um, uh, after that pro card, I really kind of reassessed how I was looking at things. And then the next time I competed was 2018, and I stepped on stage at like 140, I think I was. Um, Much better look. That was when I think that was the first time I worked with Jeff Alberts. Much better look. Still extremely lean, stage lean, but just felt better, looked better. Um, yeah, and then that was 2018. Then I was gonna compete around the pandemic, but I said that's just too up in the air if the show is getting canceled. Had my firstborn in 2019, my secondborn in 2021, and then competed in 22, and then competed in 24, and now here I am.
That's all such a cool story. I'm I'm never gonna forget the old cottage cheese in like the Ziploc bags. That is so funny.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining. I remember it brings back memories of like those old like yogurt
Yep.
tubes that people. It reminds me of like a yogurt tube, but it's just like
I'm
I'm in a
I'm an
white.
innovator. What can I say?
The things we do to build muscle. Oh no, that's amazing though. So, what do you feel over the span of those different seasons from the first show where you're really lean from the top end but not so much in the bottom end to this last year? What do you think are the biggest things that you've learned after having done what would that be, like 5 or 6 preps,
Yeah.
including winning your pro card?
Yep. What I've learned the most, it's a simple answer, is that there's a lot of flexibility that's built into it. And it's almost like you don't, you can listen to Jeff Alberts on a podcast and he can tell you that you have to be flexible. You don't have to be super rigid. But until you are forced to be flexible and you see that nothing is changing for the worse, only until that happens do you actually implement it into your life. So when I started growing my family and having my kids, and I'm blaming my kids. Like I should actually thank them because they're the ones that kind of made me, in a bodybuilding sense, grow from a boy to a man as a bodybuilder. Like start looking at things differently. Um, So what I started finding myself doing was I would my workouts would kind of be a bit broken up. Like I would do a few sets in my basement. I made a little area in my basement when my kids were born. I would go down and do a set of squats, set of split squats, and then go back up the stairs and help with bottles or help with something, uh, and then go back down and finish my workout. And even though that sounds so silly, that I would stop my workout, go change modes, go to dad mode, and then come back downstairs. Like to me at
Yeah.
the time, that was like blew my world. I was like, this is horrible. Like my whole workout is just like ruined. Like I lost all the benefits of my leg workout because I just took 10 minutes to go upstairs and be with my kids. But then over time you realize like, oh, nothing changed. Like it's still the same. Same thing with meals. Like I realized that um, I wasn't eating every 2.5 to 3 hours, and nothing was changing. Um, so you can hear that total calories and protein is really what matters, not so much every 2 hours. You can hear that, but until you're forced to do it and then see the results, I think we're fearful to kind of implement those things. Even a big thing for me also was cardio. So my previous preps before working with Jeff, I would do high intensity cardio. I would go to the gym for cardio. So it was taking me out of my life and I was doing my cardio. Whereas with Jeff, we did step count. So I can play with the kids. I can be with my wife. I could go for a walk and do something productive uh, and still get my steps in, still do my cardio. And I was like, this is never going to work. Like, this is never going to work. But I know he's Jeff Albert, so I'll just give him the time of day, and then I'll watch my prep fall on its face because he's not making me do formal cardio. Sure enough, like I got almost the leanest I've ever been just by tracking my steps. And I was like, wow, like that was a game changer for me because now all of a sudden, like people ask me, like, gosh, how do you prep with 3 kids? How do you prep with 2 kids? How do you prep with a baby under 1 years old? And it's like, it prep. The word prep is so different for so many people. For me, yes, it's difficult, but it's not really stressful for me. Like I think once you do once you do harder things than a prep is just like I don't know. It's like it's just there. It's just happening. Like I got other things that I have to do. Other things I'm focusing on, more important things, and then prep just kind of happens in the background. It's kind of like a garden. Like I do a garden at my house. I love for some reason I love gardening. Like it's just something that I respect. Like the process, like taking the time to get the soil right, tending to the seeds, putting the work in, and then you sit back and all of a sudden you have like tomatoes and peppers. Like that process is just like really interesting to me. But having the garden, once you water it, once you know it's set, once you know the process is right, you just kind of go about your life. Like you don't go hang on a date like with your girlfriend and you're like, man, like I hope the pepper plants are doing okay. And she's like, what? I'm like, nothing, nothing, nothing. Go on what you were saying. Like,
I gotta add more
yeah.
fertilizer.
Right. Like, yeah, yeah. That actually at dinner with your girlfriend, that may work out. She may take that a different way about fertilizing things. But no, but so just like a garden, like once you set it, once you have a plan, you just let it happen in the background. I don't think about my garden unless I'm talking about it. I don't think about my prep in daily life unless someone says like, wow, are you losing weight? I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like I'm 20 pounds lighter than the last time you saw me because I'm competing. But it kind of just happens in the background. So that to your question, what has changed from over all the preps? It's the idea that it's just not that important. Once you look at it like that, it becomes a lot less of a burden. It becomes less heavy. Um, it's not a life or death situation. So once you can have prep be a garden and just happen in the background, yes, you have to put the work in. I'm not saying you just throw a bunch of seeds on the ground and walk away and like, what the hell? Like my plants aren't growing. Put the work in. Do what you have to do day to day. Water it. Give it sunlight. be in your deficit, hit your step count, get your training in. But then after that, like, just let it happen and go be dad, or go be a friend, or go be a good coworker. I think too many times me, and I'm speaking for myself too, we let prep be the most important thing that we're doing. And then it just becomes this big monster of a task that opens us up for overanalyzing, thinking things. Is this can of tuna really 4 ounces, or is it really like 4.5 ounces? Set the garden, set the process in place, and just let it happen.
The garden analogy is amazing. It kind of um what you're sharing, it's to me it's kind of going full circle to what we were talking about earlier, even with the injuries. And I think you brought up at some point training out in the park. So the split squats that you did outside, and like doing like inverted rows, like with on a tree branch and that sort of thing, and having the understanding that you can be flexible with like your training routine in that sense and still maintain or even build more muscle, and having that kind of reassurance, because that's what we were talking about, having reassurance and peace of mind can make all the difference when it comes to recovering from an injury, or at least not re-aggravating or recovering quickly from an injury, or whatever. It sounds like it's kind of going full circle with this, and that if you treat the prep and the bodybuilding lifestyle as a garden, you do what you need to, and then you kind of like just take a step back and let it grow in the background, then you can have some reassurance and peace of mind in knowing that like you've done everything that you can do, and you can be flexible, and you can still live your life and get a great result, and have a good high quality of life at the end of it all too. Um, but yeah, that's amazing. I love that. I'm never going to forget it myself. It's helpful for me.
That's awesome, man.
So
Thank you. Appreciate that.
yeah. Anyways, Nick, yeah, man, thank you so much for this. I'm really appreciative of your time, and to get to know you better, your background with bodybuilding, and to learn more about your experience as far as the injury conversation that we had earlier on. This has been really awesome for me. So huge thank you to you. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It was a great conversation. I feel like I uplifted from talking to you, and so it's kudos to you. It was great. Yeah, really appreciate having me on.